I used to think winter made liars honest. Cold pares things down. Snow erases extraneous steps and shows you the one path that got you where you are. Then we checked into the Kreslin Hotel in January, and I learned how many footprints a person can make inside their own head without ever leaving the room. My wife's name is Naomi. We picked the hotel from a list she kept on her phone, a note titled, "Places Where Maybe We Can Hear Ourselves," which should have been a warning if I'd been listening with anything but hope. The Kreslin sits in a bowl of white pines iced to quiet, a frozen lake like a held breath, a funicular that climbs the ridge and stops as if it forgot why it started. The brochure promised fireplaces, tea service, a library that smells like oranges and leather, and a cordoned path marked with small lanterns that get buried by snowdrift every few days and are dutifully dug out by a man with a blue scarf and patience for repetition. We arrived with bags we didn't need and arguments we hadn't finished. The lobby was all dark timber and warm lamps. Behind the desk, a woman with a name tag that said Evelyn passed me a pen, heavy enough to be honest, and asked us to sign the register. She slid 2 brass keys across the counter, one with a leather tag stamped 312, one with nothing. "Your room," she said of the first, "and the other is for the library drop box. We do a tradition here called snow mail. Guests leave each other notes through the winter gratitude confessions dares. It's anonymous unless you decide to put your name. The snow creates a kind of theater." Naomi smiled like the idea pleased her. "It's harmless, right?" Evelyn's smile didn't reach the tired at the edges of her eyes. "It's as harmless as people." Our room was at the end of a hall that creaked like a ship. The window framed the frozen lake and the path of lanterns that would be dug out tomorrow and the day after that. A radiator hissed its complaints. Someone somewhere was practicing piano softly enough to respect the weather. Naomi set her bag on the luggage rack and touched the mantel like she was checking whether the hotel had a pulse. She always looks for the heart of a place before she looks for the light. "We're really here," she said. "No phones after 9? "No phones after 9, I said. I put mine face down on the dresser like a talisman and felt the irrational tug of panic, the way a child feels when a parent leaves a room, even though they promise to return. We ate in the dining room at a table against the window. The night sank onto the glass and flattened itself into a mirror. Couples murmured. A family introduced their child to chocolate soufflé like a small miracle. Naomi asked for tea with honey and then didn't drink it. She wore the sweater I love, the one with sleeves that fall too long and make her hands look like secrets. In the hallway on the way back, she squeezed my fingers twice. The code that means yes, and I'm here. Outside our door sat an envelope. White, no name, a pressed sprig of pine under the flap like a signature. Inside, a single sheet of paper, plain type, no letterhead. Every year, the wind from the ridge forgets where it was headed and stops here to listen. If you whisper the truth during that pause, it hears you. If you lie, it carries that with it too. A friend. Naomi read it and looked at me with that sideways amusement people save for coincidences that think they're fate. Snow mail, she said. Cute. Harmless, I echoed, because sometimes repeating someone else's comfort is the only comfort you can give. We slept like people who traveled through weather. In the gray before morning, I woke to light creeping under the door and the soft skid of paper against carpet. Another envelope. Naomi slept on her stomach, hair across her face like a net catching anything that tried to leave without permission. I opened the envelope quietly. I saw you on the path last night, the way you stepped to the right when the wind pushed left. You walked like someone who used to dance and forgot on purpose. If you are who I think you are, you're braver than me. 7, I checked the number on the tag of our key anyway. 312. Not 7. I slid the letter back into its envelope and set it on the mantel. When Naomi woke, she stretched in that cat way that always undoes me and asked, "What's that?" "Another snowmail," I said. "Maybe they mixed rooms." She read it and flicked her gaze over me in a way I couldn't translate. "We should walk after breakfast," she said. "I want to see where the wind forgets." We walked. The lanterns nodded in their small trenches. The cold was honest in my lungs. Naomi's breath fogged and disappeared like decisions. A man with the blue scarf cleared drifts from the edges and whistled a tune you couldn't catch. At the edge of the lake, the wind indeed paused. No branch movement, no snow devils, just a hush like an animal listening. Naomi closed her eyes in that pause and said nothing out loud. I watched her mouth like a person trying to learn a language from a distance. Another envelope waited that afternoon, slid under while we were making the bed. This one. I don't know if I'm writing to the right door. The front desk won't help. Evelyn believes in letting weather decide. I believe in forcing a map. If you are who I think you are, meet me in the library at 3, the blue chair by the window. If you aren't, forgive a stranger for asking something that feels like a rescue. 7, I put it back on the mantel. Naomi didn't come out of the bathroom for a long time. When she did, her eyes were red but clear, as if she'd rinsed something corrosive away. She saw the envelope, saw my face, and said, "If you think I wrote that, I didn't." "I don't," I said. "Should we take it to the front desk?" She lifted the envelope and ran her thumb over the pressed pine. "Let's go to the library at 3 and see who sits in the blue chair," she said, and I couldn't tell whether this was curiosity or a dare to the universe. At 3, the library smelled like citrus peel and old bindings. The blue chair by the window faced the ridge. A woman sat in it, early 30s maybe, hair braided, a scar at her jawline like a comma. She held a book upside down. When Naomi and I entered, she looked up with a start that felt rehearsed. Her eyes met Naomi's first. Something passed. Not recognition, permission? "I think there's been a mistake," the woman said, standing, leaving the book on the chair like proof she deserved the space. "I'm sorry, I was expecting someone who—" She stopped, turned to me, and smiled the way a person smiles at a good dog. Warm, careful, withholding the hand. "Snowmail?" Naomi said. The woman nodded. "I'm staying in 207. I got a note that wasn't for me. I thought the right person would know what to do. I thought she would be here." She said she, like agreeing on a fact. Naomi's face did something I'd seen only once before. The day her sister called to say their mother had finally left the hospital. It was relief mixed with guilt for wanting it so badly. "I'm not her," Naomi said. The woman exhaled. It left a white cloud of defeat in the air between us. "I've made a habit of picking the exact wrong door," she said, and left the library without taking the upside-down book. We stood there with the ridge, pretending not to listen. I picked up the book out of spite. It was a novel about a train that never stops because the passengers are reluctant to arrive anywhere that requires other verbs. Back in the room, Naomi lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Just before sleep, she said, "If I were who she thought I was, I would have gone." "What does that mean?" "It means I would have recognized myself in a stranger," she said, then turned her face into the pillow like that might protect me from the truth of it. That night, Snowmail found us again. My husband believes in schedules. I believe in the way light moves across a room. I'm trying to become a person who can live with both beliefs. If you are her, tell me how you do it. If you aren't, at least you're reading this. That feels like a kind of mercy. 7 in the morning, after tea I didn't drink, I went downstairs and asked Evelyn if Snowmail ever goes to the wrong room. She arranged pencils in a cup the way a conductor arranges a band. "Sometimes the snow chooses a route," she said. "Sometimes guests try to." "Is there a 7?" I asked. "Room 7? Person 7? 7 is the little annex cottage by the path," she said. "We use numbers for the cottages." "And the person?" Evelyn's careful expression changed into something like empathy trimmed to institutional size. "We don't wrap identities in ribbon here," she said. "If someone wants to be known, they write their name." I tried not to be the man who needs rules to feel safe. "If notes keep showing up that aren't ours, we'll leave them at the desk." Her mouth twitched into honesty. "You won't," she said. "You'll read them. You're already reading them. That's all right. That's what winter is, for reading things that aren't meant for you and deciding to be better anyway." On the third night, I woke at 2:11 to the sound of footsteps in the hall. Not the purposeful stride of staff, but the stop-start of a person negotiating with themselves. The white edge under the door brightened with the sweep of a lamp. The soft skid. Another envelope. This one asked a question I wasn't ready to hear. If you're her, did you ever love someone who wrote you into being and then forgot to keep writing? If you aren't, is that what you fear? I sat on the carpet and read it again. The radiator hissed. Outside, the world did the creaking of old ice thing I'd only ever heard in movies. Naomi stirred, sat up, rubbed sleep from her face. "What now?" she asked, seeing me on the floor. I handed her the note. She read, didn't look up for a whole minute. Then in a voice the size of the lamp circle, she said, "Yes." "Which part?" "All of it." We didn't talk for a while. There's a kind of silence married people learn, the one that doesn't freeze you, the one that keeps you from saying the thing you'll have to take back with tweezers. Finally, she said, "When we got married, you wrote me letters for no reason. You wrote about the oven light and the way the dog across the street snores and how the air in our apartment smelled like toast at 3 p.m. You wrote our life so I could walk around in it without tripping. Then we got busy. The writing didn't stop. It changed addressees. You think I wrote our life to other people. I think you wrote your best sentences to anyone who wasn't me," she said. No accusation, just a map. "I can show you my phone," I said, and even as I said it, I knew I was offering the wrong proof. She placed the note back in the envelope the way you return a library book you meant to own. "What I want is not your phone," she said. "What I want is to be inside the draft again." I stared at the mantel where the other notes lay like small flags. "Do we go to 7?" I asked. Naomi slid her legs off the bed and put her feet on the cold floor like a person committing. "We go," she said, "not to be heroes, to tell whoever is writing to the wrong door that we can't carry their pages anymore." The path to the annex was a taxonomy of crunches. Our breath made quick ghosts. We knocked on 7 and the porch light came on, not like welcome, but like caution. The door opened a crack. A woman peered out, braids, scar, the blue chair reader. She saw us and seemed to choose relief over fear. "You aren't her," she said, which was both apology and diagnosis. "No," Naomi said, "but we're who you've been writing to." The woman opened the door wider and let us into a room that smelled like wet wool and cedar. A small fire tried hard. On the table, a stack of envelopes addressed to no one. On the mantel, a key with no tag. The woman gestured to the chairs and sat on the edge of hers like you sit on a hospital bed when you're not sure if you can leave. "My name is Lena," she said. "I thought if I wrote enough, I'd make the right person appear." "Do you know who that is?" I asked. "His wife," she said. Naomi's head tilted the smallest degree. "You're asking a woman to come do your ending for you." Lena's mouth made a shape you don't see unless someone is very tired of themselves. "I suppose I am," she said. "He's here with her. He's here trying to be repaired. She doesn't know I exist. I'm trying to do the moral thing and stay away. I thought if I put the truth in the snow would tell it. Or perhaps the wrong person would read it and be relieved. See, not me. And I'd have done some good." "What is the truth?" Naomi asked. "The one you wanted the snow to deliver." "That he wrote me into being," Lena said, looking past us toward the ridge, and then stopped. "And I'm stuck as someone else's first draft." I sat with that. I wanted to ask the invasive question married men ask when they're afraid their story has a twin that ends worse. I didn't. Naomi did not flinch. "What do you need from us, Lena?" "I need you to tell me to stop," Lena said, "because I don't listen to me." "I'm not your conscience," Naomi said, as gently as a person can say no. "Then tell me how you stay," Lena said, desperate and crooked. "We're figuring it out," Naomi said. "It has nothing to do with snow." We left her in the small, warm light of her own problem. On the path back, Naomi threaded her arm through mine. "I don't want our marriage to be a hotel people check into to find their moral thermals," she said. "I don't want to fold their towels." "Me neither," I said. We told Evelyn as much as we needed to. She nodded in that proprietary way of someone whose job is tending a house of minor miracles. "We try not to let snow mail turn into weather that drowns," she said. "Sometimes it rains. I'm sorry it rained on you." No notes arrived the next day or the next. The funicular crept up the ridge and paused at the overlook, as if it too needed to check whether it still wanted the view it had asked for. We ate soup that burned our tongues and made us laugh because it hurt the same way the good crying does. We sat in the blue library chairs and read books to each other like we hadn't found in months the attention to do it right. On the 5th morning, a final envelope slid under the door with the soft insistence of a cat. Naomi picked it up and held it with 2 hands. She looked at me, then opened it. To the wrong door, that was the right one. Thank you for answering when you didn't have to. I won't write again. I will tell the truth where it belongs. If you are her, you know what that means. If you aren't, I hope you never have to learn. 7. We packed that afternoon. The snow had decided the path needed another lesson and covered the lanterns to their necks. At the desk, Evelyn asked if we'd be back. Naomi said, maybe in a different winter. Evelyn smiled in a way that admitted she didn't expect that and wished it anyway. We were almost out the door when she called after us. Oh, Mr. Hale, the library drop. She held up the second brass key, the one with no tag, the one we hadn't used. Would you mind? It's on your way. The drop box was a brass slit in the wall near the library, a little door with a tiny lock. I slid the key in. The mechanism clicked with an intimacy that unsettled me. Inside, a few envelopes waited like birds trusting a hand. One at the back had my name, printed in a neat, impatient hand that I both knew and did not. Naomi's when she writes to herself and intends to show me later. Do you want to read it? She asked. Yes, I said. I opened it. There were 3 lines. The first year, you wrote me a room. I lived there gratefully. The third year, you outsourced your love to competence, and I almost mistook that for safety. This year, I'm choosing to be the person who asks out loud rather than leave notes under doors and hope the wrong person reads them. It didn't accuse me. It hired me. I folded it and handed it back to her. Keep it, I said. Put it somewhere that isn't weather. We drove down the mountain in a slow, careful line behind a plow that made the world possible. The radio tried out news and songs, and we let it. Naomi rested her forehead against the glass and watched pines blur into an audience. At the first turnout, I parked, and we both got out and listened to the mountain be large. The cold took my breath in its teeth and held softly. I wrote to someone, I said without the drumroll men like to give their honesty. Not like Lena, not like an affair. I wrote to a forum about being married to someone beautiful and brilliant and harder to impress each year because that's what you deserve. Strangers applauded me. It felt like sugar. I know, Naomi said. How? You started speaking in paragraphs I hadn't earned, she said, and you stopped laughing where only we laugh. I thought you'd be angrier. I was, she said. Then I wrote to the snow instead of you. That made me angrier at myself. We stood with our little human steam. Finally, I said, do you want to go back next winter? To the crest line? To the room we keep pretending hotels can build for us. She smiled, and this one reached her edges. We can build our own snow, she said. We can dig out our own lanterns. We can write each other in the library of our apartment and add oranges if we miss the smell. What about anonymous letters? We'll do them too, she said, surprising me, but we'll sign them. Back in the city, we taped a brass hook beside our kitchen table and hung the tagless key from it, even though it didn't open anything. We put a shoebox on the bookshelf and named it Weather. We slip notes into it when we are not brave enough to say a thing in the light. On Sundays, we unlock it together, no key, just agreement, and read them. Sometimes we laugh because the thing that felt impossible Tuesday was solved by Wednesday's pasta. Sometimes we cry because the paragraph is unfair and true. Most times it's something simple. I miss the way you narrate us, or stop doing the dishes when I'm telling you a story. Sit down and listen. Or hold me like a comma, not a period. A month after the mountains, Naomi came home with a sprig of pine pressed flat in a book. She slid it into my palm and said, "A souvenir from the wrong door." I stuck it to the fridge with a magnet that used to announce a pizza place and now announces that we're trying. We still learn. We still fail. Sometimes at 2:11, my old body gets up and goes to the hall and checks for envelopes like a man with a problem he wants to own. There's never anything there. There is, however, a note on the table with my name in her impatient hand, and when I open it, it says something like, "You can come back to bed. The wind is paused. Say the true thing now." The true thing is never elegant. The true thing is not a brochure. The true thing is this: I want our drafts. I want our ugly edits. I want to build a room you can live in when the stories outside get too loud. And I'll stop expecting the mountain to do that job because it's better at avalanches than architecture. Last week, I found a folded sheet under my coffee mug, a souvenir of her impatience with my talent for delay. 3 lines. She loves 3 lines when she can get away with it. I don't want to be written into being. I want to be listened into form. Don't be my editor. Be my audience first. P.S. The key looks nice by the table. It opens this. If you let it, I let it. Most mornings now we make our own snow. We turn off our phones at 9, even in the city. We sit at the table with oranges and tea that goes cold while we warm the small theater of admission. Today I was tempted to put a note under a stranger's door. Today I wrote you in my head while riding the train and forgot to text it. Today I remembered the way you laughed at souffle. I don't believe winter makes liars honest anymore. I think winter just makes the sound of lying easier to hear. The rest, the stopping, the knocking, the reading at the right door instead of the wrong one, that's on us. If there's a mountain in that, it's small and portable and sits on our kitchen table, under a sprig of pine and beside a key that knows what it means to lock and unlock, even if it never turns in any old brass again. If you made it to the end of this story, thank you. It means a lot. New stories like this one are posted every single day, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss one. And if this story touched you, please give it a like. It really helps more people find our content.